Hey guys, Ben Jay here yet again, episode 3 of Chit Chat, and sitting down with my brother again. He was obviously on the first episode, so you guys should be familiar with him, especially because he's been super active on social media, which is great to see. Because me and him are both now in the war paths of creating content and sharing our views with the world. EJ, for those who aren't familiar with you, give yourself a quick introduction. Just let them know.
Hey guys, my name is Ethan. I'm an online content creator and life coach. I post motivational content. My aim is to help people live happier lives, making better decisions that will better their circumstances.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, me and him are both super big on self-development, and we're always looking for ways to improve who we are, or develop who we are, and then seeing how that fits in with the people who are around us at that point. All right, man, so you and me are super busy. We're always doing stuff. We kind of live in our own separate worlds, and they get to intercross, and that's whenever the things like this come together and this stuff happens, which is super fun and exciting. Where are you at right now with your life? What's the life update you can kind of give to your audience and kind of let people have some context around what's influencing your mindset at this point?
About 80% through a move from Jeju Island, which is at the bottom half of Korea, to Seoul at the top of Korea. And in between the move, I'm going to be back in America for about 2 months, hanging out with the family. And yeah, so basically what I'm in the closing chapters of a job that I've had for 2 years, and I'm basically looking at my old life in the face as I try to prepare for a new life where I'm hopefully not going back into teaching, but maybe starting an entire new line of employment. So yeah, I guess what I'm basically dealing with a lot these days is feeling a lot of insecurity, feeling a lot of self-judgment in terms of what I'm qualified to do and what decisions I'm qualified to make or not. And also just a lot of general stress and anxiety. I mean, I was talking to one of my friends today and I was just saying, like, it's weird because moving is such a interesting dynamic. There's like half of it is like so happy and excited about the new opportunities for your future and being in a new place and meeting new people. And the other half of it is just complete and utter anxiety because you're literally ripping apart your life piece by piece, throwing some of it away, selling some of it, giving it to other people. So yeah, it's a very, very, I don't know, petrifying process of just like half of me is just really happy and excited all the time. And the other half of me is just completely stuck in anxiety and stress most of the time. Mm-hmm. So that's basically where I am. And that's what's been driving my decisions. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say driving my decisions, but it's definitely been affecting me emotionally. And obviously my emotions can drive my decisions. Yeah, so absolutely. That's basically where I'm moving from.
Absolutely, because it's a very emotionally taxing situation. There's good stuff and bad stuff. There's hard stuff and easier stuff. And there's so many emotions about letting go and also embracing new stuff, like you said. So it's an emotional weight that you have to kind of carry, I guess. And as we all know, emotions can really influence our choices that we make as well. Here in the midst of all these decisions and choices you're making, though, EJ, like, how do you balance that line between emotional response and mental response to making decisions and doing things?
It's actually funny you bring that up, simply because something that's been on my mind a lot for the last month, and this is totally related to things that are more in my personal, like my heart of hearts development. Things like my relationship with my wife or my relationship, with you or my family. And it's actually really interesting to me how differently I'm handling this move as I have opposed to moves that I've done in the past or major decisions that I've made in the past. I think probably if I really thought about it, I could figure out where this comes from. Mm-hmm. But it's really strange to me that I have like this internal, it's almost like a sensor. It's like an emotion. It's like your emotional sensor, because like there'll be situations where I'm in, like literally I can feel myself getting up to a certain point, and then it's just like something just clicks, and I just realize, and I'm like, oh wait, like I'm being so emotional right now. Like I'm just facing the situation completely based off of how I feel or based off of how I perceive others to perceive me. Something that's sits in these areas of like negative emotional states. And it's just weird because I'll just be going and going and going, and then suddenly it just clicks. And I'm just like, oh, wait a second, that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'm in this negative emotional space and I'm making decisions from that. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, then all I need to do is just stop acting like this and I don't have a problem. And then I just alter my behavior to do that, and then I move on. And I really think that just comes from, and I'm not being vain, like just years and years of emotional development and self-knowing, and just continuously looking at myself and trying out different things that what work or whatever. I mean, like, I guess this is what you might call like emotional success at the end of a really, really long journey of going from a place of like where I used to just be totally trapped and frustrated in my emotions all the time to being to a place where like I can just I don't even have to think about it. It's just something that I can just sense and like, oh, okay, I'm making this decision from a wrong place or whatever.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. But I mean, like, first of all, props to you though for, like, it's not something that you can brag about, because like you said, it's so easy to get caught up in that negative emotional state without even realizing that it's happening, right? And that's why things like emotional intelligence are actually a practice that you keep doing throughout life, because you're constantly thrown back into those situations and you have to find your way out of it again, and I think it does get a little bit like the time period it takes to pull out of it can get shorter, as you get better at it. But it is something that you have to, continually improve at. I had a similar situation recently where it wasn't a negative emotional state, but rather, like you said, I realized I was basing my response and my actions off of the other person in the situation, and I was like, and I started feeling super uncomfortable. I was like, I feel so uncomfortable as I'm saying this right now. It's like, why do I feel so uncomfortable? And it wasn't until like a few hours later that I was like, oh, because I was too worried about like how they were interpreting me, or what they thought of me at that moment, and so I wasn't speaking from a place of confidence. I was like, yeah, I don't want to live that way. Yeah, I had to go back and do the self check of like, how do I feel about that? How can I communicate it, in a clear way, without caring about what the other person, thinks of you. It's not always easy, but I do want to bring it up real quick, just as like to see what tips you have for people. How do you practice going into? What's your practice for zeroing in on your emotions and acting from that place? Do you have any like quick tips that people could maybe adapt or apply?
If I could take just a step back to clarify something, and I think that you did a better job of saying this than I did, but the skill there isn't like okay, so like the superpower isn't always changing my behavior. The superpower is understanding that I'm acting from a place of negative emotion, or acting from a place based on something that the way that the other person feels about me. That is what I've practiced over the years. Obviously, there are times that even if I see where I'm acting from that emotion, sometimes it's hard for me to stop myself because of the type of situation that it is, or because of how deep that emotion is, or whatever. Just because I know that I'm acting from a place of emotion doesn't mean that I always stop myself. Sometimes there are times that I allow myself to go further or whatever. So no, the superpower is not always being able to be the better person or be the bigger man and just say, oh, you know what, I'm going to step back from the situation. I do try to do that as much as possible, but obviously, I'm not perfect. So the superpower is being able to see that. The practice is being able to step away from that and act on that thing that you see.
That's a good. Thanks for explaining that, because that is super important to keep in mind.
Right.
I think that we do tend to beat ourselves up, not us specifically, but people in general beat themselves up whenever they can see what's going wrong, but they're not taking action on it, and most people can't. And that's why it's a practice of getting better at it. Once you can identify it, then you can build the skill it takes to act on it and improve the situation. Anyway, as you were saying.
Well, it's like it's a strength, it's a muscle that you have to build, being able to walk away from that. Yeah. And I think that is my best piece of advice that I could give those people, is to, even if you're not feeling angry, even if you're not feeling sad, whether you like it or not, you're an emotional creature, and basically every decision you make is made based off of some emotion, like to some level. Now, how much you trace it back, and what you should do is you should practice tracing it back. Practice tracing it back to what emotion is driving this decision you want. Like, let's say that you want to eat something specific for dinner. What is the emotion that's leading to that? Is it because you're afraid of eating something else? Is it because you're afraid of like, because I mean, it sounds crazy, but there are people who literally they want to eat a certain thing for dinner because they feel like they should be eating something healthy, because they feel like they should be dieting or something. And it's like, what is that crazy, like back history of emotions that is driving this current decision? And it's true, because it's the same for lots of things. What car you want to buy, or how you answer somebody, because you want that person to perceive you a certain way, or you want to be looked at a certain way in the situation. So I would say my biggest piece of advice is just every single decision you make, practice figuring out what emotion that comes from. Practice figuring out what is driving that decision. What are the mechanics behind it? And it's not easy at first, because it takes a lot of like self-honesty, obviously, and it takes a lot of self-exploration, and you need to really like the easy thing though is that you can't really lie to yourself. Like, you can say, oh, this is just because I want it, but then it's like in your heart of hearts, like, nah, that's not true. There's something else here that's driving this decision. So definitely, like my number one recommendation is just to any situation you're in, any decision you're making, practice knowing consciously what is driving that decision, what emotion is driving that decision, and if you're okay with that, then make the choice to continue to do that, and figure out when you feel uncomfortable. Because once you start feeling uncomfortable and you notice, oh, I'm not comfortable in this situation, I'm not comfortable making this decision based on this emotion, then you can start to change it. But until you can figure out when you're uncomfortable and when you're not uncomfortable, then you're not going to really know when you need to change, or when you can just keep living your life,
Yeah, like you said, we attach emotional importance to so many different habits, practices, people, foods, items, etc. in life. And it's one of the core factors of being a human being. The human experience is largely created by the chemicals up here in our brain that are, telling us feel this way, feel that way, respond this way, respond that way. And those are kind of expressed through emotions that we feel and express. So it's really important, like you said, to do the troubleshooting to figure out why we feel that way and why we're responding that way. You and I have a really strange relationship with emotions, and I think it's not the way that most people experience emotions. But I want to ask you real quick on that topic, because something I wanted to bring up before the episode started was about living the life you want to live, living on your own terms, in terms of like choosing the emotions you want to experience, choosing the way you want to feel. I want to ask you real quick, EJ, what are some of the emotions that you've really limited in your life, and some of the emotions you've really tried to heighten in your life?
The emotions. There's certain emotions that I've just found that they never have any purpose. The thing about emotions that, like, I don't know, I'm sure this comes from some certain type of psychological research, but I kind of separate every emotion into one of two groups. It's either a positive emotion or it's a negative emotion. Meaning that a positive emotion always leads to a happy result, and a negative emotion always leads to an unhappy result. Now, this doesn't mean that I only look at good emotions or I only look at bad emotions. I use emotions from both sides of the spectrum. But there are certain emotions that I just limit entirely, and there's some emotions, like you said, that obviously I try to feel more of. Emotions that I try to limit generally include things that don't help me or help the people around me in any way. Things like jealousy. Jealousy is a big one. I would say selfishness is a big one. And general, like, it sounds weird to say this, but like desire is one that, like, I really, it's not like limit, but it's more like filter, I would say. I try to filter my emotions as much as possible, because like things like desires, if you use it correctly, it can really show you what you want out of life. But if you fall prey to it and you just let it control you, it can really take control of your life. Like in literally every area. Like what you're watching, what you're doing, what you're eating, who you're with. Like it can really just drive you to bad places in terms of just using your time in just horrible ways. So those are definitely some of the emotions that I try to limit as much as possible. And then the emotions that I try to use more of are things like happiness. I'm okay with being happy. I love feeling empathy. I love feeling empathy for people. I love practicing empathy. One emotion that I really try to use as much as possible. I love feeling sad. I love it. Like, I don't know, it's weird to say, but sadness is something that doesn't come very easy for me. I'm not a very sad person. And even if something really serious happens, I often just find myself immediately going to, well, this is okay because, or this will work out for the better because. And something that I've tried to do as much as possible is just really just be sad and just look at a situation, accept that it doesn't have to, everything will work out for the better, because I already know that as long as I'm alive, I'm gonna keep moving forward. I don't need to worry about that. So it's okay to accept a situation as just being sad. It is what it is. Someone died. Someone left you. Someone hurt you. It's okay. That thing is sad. I try to feel that emotion as much as possible.
Oh
it really it helps you, like, I don't know, it gives you a new view of the world. So many people are scared of emotions, man. I mean, like, they're scared of them. They're scared of being sad for too long, or they're scared of being happy for too long. And what's funny about it is it's because they're afraid of feeling the opposite in most times. People are afraid of being happy for too long because there's this, like, mentality that, like, if I'm happy for too long, something bad has to happen.
Mm.
Or they're afraid of feeling bad for too long because it's like, if I depress for too long, I'm just going to kill myself or something.
Mm.
And they're always afraid of, like, the opposite of the other emotion. And so it's like, I don't want to feel this, so I'm looking for this one. Or I don't want to feel this because I'm looking for this one. I'm afraid of this one. And
Or they don't know
yeah.
what the other emotion feels like, actually. I'm thinking right now of a situation I've experienced. I've had a lot of conversation with people about relationships or dating or romance. And one common trend I've heard a lot of people say is, I don't want to fall in love with someone, or I don't want to fall head over heels for someone. And
Nice.
yeah, which is really kind of funny, because, like, these were people, like, that were actively dating in, like, the dating circle, and they were, like, talking to me about these kind of experiences. Sure. And then, which is, like, straight, like, you're dating someone but you don't want to fall in love with someone. And then actually even yeah, right. And then the funny thing as well on the other side was that one person, I'm not sure if it was everybody, but one person did admit to me that like, they'd never felt romantic love for someone before. And so I thought that was so funny that they'd never felt romantic love for someone, but they're also scared of falling in love with someone.
They're falling in love.
And so kind of like to your point, like you said, like, we're scared of the opposite emotion, or it's also fear of the unknown, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, don't you kind of feel like, doesn't that speak a lot for the kind of experiences that you've had, and allowing those experiences to shape your perception on stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, if you imagine someone who's always been sad, and they know what they think they know what sadness feels like, and that's all they've ever experienced. So they're like, oh, I've already experienced sadness in comparison to happiness, or I've already experienced happiness in comparison to sadness. Therefore, I don't really want this thing, because if I experience this thing too much, then I'm just going to go back to feeling this thing again, because I've already had this thing before, and it always leads back to this one. Because I think there's, like, this mindset about dating specifically, that it's like, once you've been in one too many bad relationships, it's like, I never want a good relationship because I'm afraid that I'll be happy, and then that relationship will also turn into a bad relationship.
Well, I guess, like,
It's
I
one of
think
those-
in that situation,
yeah.
it's more like you won't allow yourself to be in a good relationship, maybe, like, you feel like
Sure.
you're not.
You don't know how to be in a good relationship.
You don't know how to
either.
be.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess that's another good point, is that emotions have to be practiced, like you said. People can be so afraid of emotions that we'd never let ourselves feel it. And that limits the experiences we allow ourselves to have, because we don't want to feel this or that emotion. So we're limited to only feeling these emotions.
Exactly.
I mean, I think in that same vein, I liked what you said about letting yourself feel sadness. That was an emotion I really practiced building in 2020. A habit, like, something I had practiced from childhood was to not cry. I wouldn't let myself cry at different things. It was like a skill I had built from childhood throughout my teenage years. And this year, it was kind of annoying, because I was like, oh, I can't cry. I've trained myself to not cry. And so the habit I built this year was, like, letting myself cry.
Letting yourself cry.
Yeah, and I would, like, it was like a thing I would do occasionally every couple of months. Like, I'd sit down, turn off all the lights in my apartment, and I'd watch, like, a super sad video edit, or listen to a super sad song, or look at pictures that made me sad. And I'd practice letting myself cry over time, and I got better at it. Even a funny thing is, one of my students actually told me that we were talking about stress, and I was like, how do you deal with stress? And one of my students said, I cry. I was like, you cry? She's like, yeah, I cry for 5 minutes, and then I stop crying, and I finish my homework, and I go to bed, and I feel good.
Nice.
And I was like, nice. Cool, process those emotions.
Right.
And also, I think that I have an Instagram video. I haven't posted it yet. I will have by the time this comes out, but I just filmed it earlier tonight. I talk about callousing yourself to pain, callousing yourself to negativity, until it doesn't affect you anymore. Like, you know, you're only afraid of something because you don't want to feel it. But if you've felt it enough, if you've experienced enough, like, it can't hurt you anymore. Because you're not scared of it anymore. You've experienced that. You know how to deal with it. You know what it's like to feel that way. And so I feel like it's a practice that, like, I've kind of built as well, unintentionally, but it's just because you have so many experiences. I'm very open to different emotional experiences. And so I've kind of become a little bit, like, calloused or numb in a good way of, like, not letting it deeply affect me or deeply bother me whenever I do experience, like, those strong emotions, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and like you said, like, it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel something and you know, just, like, let it go through your whole body and your physical response and your mental response. You can just sit there and absorb it.
Right. Not to take this too far in the other direction, but, like, I really love whenever people like Wim Hof, you know, Mr. Cold Man. I think his name's Iceman, right?
The Iceman, yeah, the Iceman.
Yeah. I love how he compares the cold to emotions. It's kind of funny because a lot of times when, like you just kept saying, when you're afraid of a certain emotion, you never let yourself feel it. And the cold is something that's so interesting to me because so many people hate the cold. Like, they don't want to experience it. And it's a perfect analogy. Sometimes it's not even an analogy. Sometimes it just is. It's just pain.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to feel pain. Yeah. And they don't want to feel discomfort on any level. And Wim Hof, he has something that he says. He calls cold his teacher. The cold is his teacher. And I love what he says. He has something that he said in a podcast with, what's his name? Snake oil salesman.
Jaye Shetty. Yeah.
Jaye Shetty on YouTube, on Jaye Shetty's YouTube channel. And he said, the cold is the teacher. And he said, the teacher loves you. The teacher doesn't lie to you. The teacher only shows you the truth. And what he said that in relation to was when he went into the cold, when he went into the ice water, he almost died. But in that moment of just before death, he realized what his life was about. He realized what he wanted to live for. And that emotion, that pain that he had been hiding from, it showed him what that emotion actually was to him. And it showed him that that was his purpose. And I feel like emotions are a lot of the same way, whereas we hide from things for a long time because we think we know what they are, but it's not actually true. Until we actually truly immerse ourselves in that emotion, we don't know what it feels like. And therefore, we don't have a teacher to show us. That emotion has to be our teacher to show us what this emotion means to us and what it actually feels like. Like love or hate or sadness.
That's crazy that you mentioned that because I think it's true. I think that, like, I think, like, love is a big one. Like, you can't experience love until you let yourself experience love, you know? You can't experience these emotions until you've been inside of them and you've given yourself the space to exist there and see what it's like, you know? Whether it's, like you said before, like a more uplifting emotion or a kind of a one that's a little more negative, you know, it's good to explore both of them and see how you respond to them and how you're dealing with them and everything.
Exactly.
In that same thing about the teacher, though, I wanted to pull up. I literally watched a video before I called you today. And it was David Goggins' video and one of his short snippets that they have, like, on YouTube stories. And in it, he was talking about his training. He said, I was, you know, super afraid of the water when I was going to the military. So he said to get better at it, every day I would go to the swimming pool. He said I would dip my toes in the water to see if it was cold or not. And he said that was like I can't remember how he described it, but he said, like, he was, like, surrendering or giving up. He was, like, giving himself an easy way out of, like, preparing himself. And he said we're all trying to, I'm paraphrasing a lot here. He's like, we're all trying to give ourselves that excuse or get ourselves prepared before doing it. But he said, you're telling yourself that you could do it when it comes time to, but I don't have to because I'm already, like, mentally prepared. And he said, this is the best part, the killer part that hit me the most was he said, if your training's no good, your results are no good. Yeah, I was like, oh dang, you know, because, like, it's true. Like, you always, like, say, nah, I could do that, you know, no, I'm prepared, I could do it. I've thought about that before. I've studied about that before. But like, if your training is no good, like your results are no good because you're not actually prepared. You're mentally prepared. You're not physically prepared. You know, you're not emotionally prepared to go into it. And like you said, you've got to face those hard emotions, whether it's heartbreak, whether it's suicidal thoughts, whether it's depression, whether it's anger at someone. You've got to go in and experience those and see like what kind of damage they're wreaking on your system and how it's affecting you and how can you process them in a more healthy way. You've got to really get into it and explore it.
It's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. I love that so much.
I thought so too. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of segue here. You know, we talked about those emotions we don't want to feel, the emotions we don't want to experience, and I think one big reason we don't face those emotions is because we don't have confidence of facing them, right? Like we have no experience, therefore we have no confidence. Something you wanted to bring up on the episode was feeling confident when you have no confidence. Go ahead, touch on that subject whenever you're ready.
Confidence is something that I've had a really interesting relationship with for a long time. I think when I first became an English teacher in Korea, me and you talked a lot about that growth between like how a little background for the viewers. I used to work for the government in Korea. I was on a government funded program, and basically what they did was they took a bunch of undergrad students who were basically around my same age at the time, 20 to 21 years old. And they're just young kids, and they threw them in a classroom with a bunch of little Korean kids, and they made them teach English. And I actually have a paper that I wrote back then about the same topic. And it's funny, I read it recently, and I still believe it, like, word for word. But 98% of the teachers that I saw were performers. They weren't teachers. They were acting from a place of no confidence. And the reason they had no confidence was because they believed that there was a certain role that they needed to fulfill in the classroom. There was a certain image they needed to give in the classroom. There was something that they needed to be doing that they didn't have. Some imaginary attribute that they thought that they should have that they didn't have. And this, I decided, was confidence. And I use this actually to teach several students who later went on to actually successfully enter into universities, like the University of London and the University of Incheon, because of teaching them the same principles about how confidence is actually fake. It actually doesn't exist. It's like confidence is just a representation of the skill sets that you perceive yourself not to have as compared to some other imaginary you. Like right now, I imagine myself as compared to an imaginary Ethan who's a lot more progressed in his life. He's a lot more evolved as a human being. His Korean's a lot better. His English vocabulary has improved. He's a better person, and I compare myself to this guy. And the lack of qualities that exist between these two, that makes up what I call my lack of confidence. The secret to fixing this deficit of skills is that you ignore them and you act as if you are the fullest person that you could be. Right now I am 100% Ethan. The things that I say are 100% Ethan certified, and the things that I say, I believe. And confidence, actually, the overcoming of confidence is this peculiar connection between honesty plus, realism plus your own beliefs, right? Like all of these have to come together in order to speak with confidence. The reason I brought it up this week, it's been on my mind a lot because I've been faced, as I said in the beginning of the podcast, with a lot of decisions this week that to be honest, I had no idea how to make the decision. I didn't know what to do with them. And I just had people, man, good gosh, people who are more skilled than me times 4 or 5 times, okay? Like, I consider myself to be an accomplished person. Gosh, no. These people, their resume is like 3 times as long as mine. These people have worked at IBM, Google, Twitter. I've had people come to me and give me advice about businesses that I'm thinking about building or about moves that I'm thinking about making. And they're just hitting me. You're missing this point. You're not thinking about this way or this way or this way. And all of these areas that I'm being attacked on that to be honest, I have no idea about this kind of stuff. And so acting with confidence when you actually don't have any idea what you're doing just has a lot to do with being honest with yourself. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I know the kind of person I want to be. And I know the kind of impact I want to have on people. And maybe someday this one person that I'm talking to right now will turn into 50, 1,000, 10,000 people. But right now, it's just one person. And if I can be honest, and if I can influence this person right now legitimately in the way that I want to influence them, then someday this person will turn into 10,000, a million people, if that's the way my life is meant to be. But at this point, all I have is one person. But I better much as heck not screw up this interaction with this one person because of how I'm thinking about the future or how I'm thinking about other people looking at me. So to summarize, acting with confidence when you have no confidence brings you into this situation. It brings you back to who you want to be in this moment with the people or person who's in front of you. And even if that person is just you in the mirror, you better act the way that you want to live. Because your life is made up with every minute. And if you're not you now, you're never going to be you in front of 10,000 or a million or 10 million people on the internet. It's never going to happen. So you might not have confidence now, but that's because confidence is fake and it exists between the deficit between the person you see yourself as you should be and the person you see yourself as right now. It's not true. To act with confidence, even though you don't have confidence, involves you being who you want to be, the kind of person you want to be in this moment right now. I don't know if you can do anything with that, but like, it's just something that's been on my mind this week.
Yeah. Well, I love the way that you explain it. One of your special skills, as you know already, I've told you countless times, is Ethan has an incredible skill of breaking things down in a very analytical manner and delivering in a way that makes sense to everybody. And that's all put on display right there, the way he explained this concept. Yeah, it's a beautiful concept. It's great. It's true, and it's definitely something that the audience should, take and apply as they can. I think I'm thinking about my own experience, like with confidence, and like you said, like a lot of it is just like tapping into who I believe myself to be, and then acting in relation to that. And I also think that what's been helping me nowadays with confidence is also, like I talked about previously, building up that callousing of like not caring about results or not caring about the outcome, because that also gives you a lot of freedom as well. I guess that like for confidence, it takes a lot of that self-belief in terms of like, this is who I am, this is who I want to be. So therefore, this is how I'm acting, right? This is who I am right now, and this is who I want to be. Therefore, this is how I'm going to act, until I get there. But then I think it also takes a lot of that callousing of like, I don't care what happens until then. I don't care what you say to me. I don't care if I fail. I don't care if people crap on me, because I think that's really the place where confidence can fully bloom, is whenever you no longer hear the things around you and you're completely focused on how you're acting towards the world and how you're experiencing the world. And that's kind of what I call, creating the world you live in, is learning to silence and eliminate all of the voices and the judgment and the opinions that are around you, and being able to know, cool, that's fine, I don't care. Here's who I am. Here's who I want to be. Therefore, here's how I'm acting. You're with it or you're not with it. Take care of yourself.
Exactly.
So confidence is definitely a practice, though. It's definitely something that you build over time.
Right. There is not to bring in Wim Hof again, but he told an interesting story from India, and it's about an archer, and the archer is basically in a contest, and there's two other archers, and they both hit the bullseye, and he pauses a second, he shoots his shot, and his arrow goes completely into the middle of the target, and it becomes one with the target. And they asked him, how did you shoot such a perfect shot? And he says, I focused on that place that I wanted to be. I focused on that dot until it became so big to me that it became impossible to miss. And I think that that's really true with us.
Yeah.
Focus on who you want to be every single day, and there's no way that you will not live in the future that you envision for yourself. The future is just created of a million todays.
Yeah.
Well, not a million days. We don't live for a million days, but 100 todays,
Yeah.
So I think that like the most important thing is to focus on who you want to be every single day.
That's definitely true about living in today every single moment. I'm gonna actually go ahead and bring up David Goggins again, since you're gonna double reference.
I double
reference Goggins as well. Another video of Goggins I watched before we started recording this was a video called The Hope Factor, and he told a story in the military when they would be doing these runs. His squadron would be doing runs, and he said usually they would know what the beginning place was and where the ending place was, and so as they got closer to the ending, everybody in the squadron would start like cheering and saying, "Yeah, we're almost there." But because the drill sergeant saw them getting happy about that, they would walk right past the ending line and keep going. And then everyone would get quiet and start, like feeling depressed and everything. And Goggins was like, "That's when I got excited. I was so excited because I wanted it to keep going. I was like, bring on the pain. He's like, where's the rain?" And that was really powerful to hear, because that's what happens is we set limits for ourselves and we're only allowed to experience within those limits. And it's the same way in all it is avoiding pain, avoiding greatness. If you don't have that limitation in mind, if you don't have that avoidance factor in mind, then you're making it limitless what you can achieve and what you can do. It's the same way like with the target practice, it was impossible to miss the target. It's the same way. If you're so comfortable with failing, with looking stupid, with being judged, with being hated, with, being ignored or not even cared about, it doesn't bother you anymore. It doesn't matter anymore, because it's not even a part of your world. You're only focused on who you are, who you want to be, and how you're acting every single day. And that's really the place where you want to operate from is who am I? Who do I want to be? What am I doing about it today? For us as content creators, what message are we relaying? What content are we sharing? How are we growing? How can we share this with our audience? If our audience is 1 person, 10 people, 100 people, 100,000 people, it's all about, like you said, like the future is just made up of 100 todays, 1,000 todays, 10,000 todays. So start today. Like, what are you doing today? Don't think about the lack of comments, the lack of likes, the lack of views. Just day by day, keep providing value, keep taking steps, keep making the life you want to live in. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that, man. I mean, look at us personally. I mean, it's 2020, like exactly 4 years ago around the same time. I mean, like, come on. I was sitting in the same cafe making content. Sorry, my phone battery is low, so it popped up. I was sitting in like almost the same cafe. Maybe it was the same cafe. I don't even remember. Making a podcast, with you and Steven, who's another one of our brothers, and Ike.
Yep.
And I mean, here I am, and people would look like that. You're in the same place. Well, like, I'm not the same person though. You're not the same person.
Yeah.
And we only got here by being who we are every single day. And I think you can see that in the fact that we were making content then.
Yeah.
We're making content now.
Yeah.
The most important thing is making the content and sharing the content.
Mm-hmm.
Make, learn, share. Make, learn, share. Or learn, make, share, whichever way you want to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think that it's our lives are a testament. Not just me and you. I mean, everybody's life is a testament to how you're living. Think about yourself. Where were you 4 years ago? Where were you 4 months ago? What were you doing? Because that's a pretty good show as to where you're going to be in the future. Like, you don't change.
I want to throw a quick little tangent on here and just express it real quick, because it's something that's happening in my circle a lot. I think that we see people like Tom Bilyeu and Gary Vaynerchuk talk a lot about patience, but like patience really is that thing. Patience really is that X factor that we need to keep in mind. I think no one has the understanding of how long it takes to actualize the fullest version of yourself, to actualize the ambition that you have. And this is also why it's so important to ignore the validation and ignore the accolades, is because those become distractions for you, and those become limitations for you. Because if you're not getting a certain amount of likes or views, you stop doing what you actually care about in search of more likes and views, doing something else. But it's it's not based on who you actually want to be. The thing that for anybody who's watching this as a creative, if you're a musician or an artist or a fashion designer or an architect or a ballet dancer, really, please just silence all of the praise and the accolades and the criticism and the hatred and everything. Just silence all of it. Tap into who you want to be and just like keep doing what you want to do. And if it changes, then it changes, and that's fine as well. But like, just do what you want to do, because it might be 4 days later, it might be 4 months later, it might be 4 years, and it might be 4 decades later. But if you're staying true to who you are and you're really doing stuff that you believe in, that you value, it's inevitable to achieve the heights that you want to reach, because you're doing what you love every single day, and it doesn't matter if you're getting love or hate for it. You're already enjoying it, even though you might not be doing it at the level you want to do it, or at the exposure that you want to be doing it, but you're doing it because it's important to you, and so you never stop. So yeah, just be patient, and be active. Practice that active patience I talked about so much.
About patience, there's actually 2 things that I want to add. One of them is more of an anecdote, so I'll share in a minute. The other one I feel like is definitely more useful to the people who are watching. I have a student, and he's been preparing for a test for about a year now, and he took his test. The test was easy. Took his interview, flopped. He did horrible. He just froze up, couldn't hear what they were saying. The computer connection went bad. Just like crap hit the ceiling fan. Like, it was just a really bad experience for him.
Yeah. And
I think he was really disappointed. He was really, let out after that. And we had a big discussion about why it was he failed, why it was that he didn't get what he wanted, even though he'd been putting in his best every single day for a year. And I told him that humans have this problem that if we do something for a predetermined amount of time, we have this idea that we deserve a certain result for a certain amount of time, or we have this idea that we deserve something because of something else. And I told him, you don't deserve to get accepted into this school just because you've practiced a year for this interview. I said, there's kids who have practiced 4 years for this interview, and they still didn't make it this cut. And I was like, it doesn't matter how long you've practiced. It matters where you are in your journey and whether or not getting into this school is right in your journey. And what it came down to as a personal problem for him was honesty. Okay. Like, he struggles with honesty. He struggles with sharing himself to people, and because of that, it's not easy for him to open up and answer questions authentically, which makes it difficult for him to pronounce stuff and say stuff fluidly in English. Yes. And it comes across as he's a poor English speaker. Yes. And I gave him a comparison. I was like, think about it. I was like, Sungun, his name's Sungun, by the way. I was like, think about it, Sungun. I was like, if you were completely 100%, literally 100% honest, every single part of every single day, every single minute, I was like, how many friends do you think would hate you? How many friends would like you? And he said probably 10% of friends would like him, and 90% of friends would hate him, probably, because he doesn't really have very good opinions about the people around him. And I said, that's great. I said, but out of that 10%, how many people are going to leave you? And he said, maybe none. Darn right it's none, because they're there because they like you, man. And I was like, imagine if you did that for 10 years. That 10% of your friends becomes 100 friends because you've been you, and it just maximizes over time. It's exponential. The more time you spend being you, the easier it is to find people who love you for being you. And I'll share the second thing, the anecdotal thing is just completely related.
You don't need other people's validation. You need your own validation. You need to accept yourself. You need to love yourself. You need to be yourself, because you're wasting time with fake friends. You're wasting time with fake interactions. You're building a fake world that you don't even care about. You don't even like these people. There's 10 people who you actually deeply you vibe with, and they're all that matter. And it's and
you're actually losing them in pursuit of faker relationships. Spending time with other people. The thing that I wanted to say was about my Instagram. You had said at the beginning, you said Ethan's been really active on Instagram these days. And it's true. These days. It's just been days. It's literally just been days. I was looking at my Instagram feed. And it's finally to the point where at the top of my page, if I just let my phone sit there, I have a Mac, so I can see more than most people. But I can finally only see videos that are about self-improvement or self-confidence at the top of my page. And I was like, awesome. And I looked at that and I was like, man, I've been producing content so long. You scroll down just one time and it's gone. And it's funny because, of course, I felt exactly like I knew I would. I was like, I still haven't made anything. And it's like, well, doesn't matter. Let's post a new one.
Next video.
And I was like, next video.
Yeah.
Because if I don't post a new one at this moment's going to be gone. And I'll never have this opportunity again to post another video, to share another thing. I don't know when I'm going to die. I mean, I'm going to upload a video that I recorded earlier today, later tonight, but we don't know when we're going to die. I don't know what's going to be my last upload.
Yeah.
But I sure as heck don't want my last upload to be something of me complaining about how I feel or me not sharing something that's useful for other people. Like, I want to impact the people who see my story. I want to impact the people who see my Instagram. Yeah. Whether that's my family or my really close friends or even some random person who just happens onto the story. Yeah. I want to have an impact that helps them change their decisions to make them happier and have better results.
Inspirational, man. Inspirational deeply. Okay, the last thing I wanted to cover, well, actually, you wanted to cover it, and I'm not sure if it might seem counterintuitive, but I'm sure it's related because I know you so well. You wanted to bring up not going anywhere is okay. We're talking all about like this inspirational, develop, express yourself, develop yourself and everything. How does not going anywhere is okay pull into this conversation?
I was super surprised that no one responded to my story with like a what, because I put so many safeguards on my story to allow people to respond to it, but I don't have very much interaction with my stories.
For anyone who didn't see it, what was the story?
It was me saying that. I was like, it's okay to not have a plan. It's okay to not have a goal. Like, you don't need to be going anywhere. This is specifically for my humanitarian specialist, my vegan friends, my creative friends. The thing that I was talking about is related specifically to a journey that I've been on for it's got to be about 10 years now since I first really started producing digital art.
Okay.
And for a long time, I felt like if I wasn't doing something with my art, it was a waste of time. I felt like if I wasn't selling my art, if I wasn't putting it on a website, if I wasn't posting it somewhere, it was a waste of time.
Okay.
And I don't know why I felt like that, to be honest. I feel like it must have just been because I had such a desire to earn money. But it really screwed me up creatively. Like, I haven't really made art a lot at all, really, since like the last 2 or 3 years. And it's really something that I'm just now coming to understand, that like, it doesn't matter what kind of content you make, but completely related to what we said last time, you don't have to be advertising on Instagram. You don't have to be posting, every single day. Like, you can post on Facebook or DeviantArt or Instagram or Tumblr whenever you feel that urge or whenever you have something to share. Anytime it's authentic, because authenticity happens at different times for different people. Me and you are very prolific people. Posting every day is, most generally speaking, a very authentic thing for us to do.
Right.
But for some people, authenticity happens at greater periods of time. For painters, for example, sometimes they just have a moment of authenticity every, 2 to 3 months when they want to paint something. And the rest of the time they're spending, getting inspiration about that. And so it's totally fine not to be working on client projects for clients. It's fine not to be advertising yourself or producing really, really quality content. Like, it's fine to be you, whatever you is. Not you in terms of what's going to make the most money you, not you and what's going to get the most likes you, just you. If you isn't posting on social media, screw it, don't post on social media. Spend your life making your art for yourself, if that's what makes you the most happy. If you want to share with other people, share it. If not, don't do it, because ultimately doing things that are outside of you is just detrimental to you in the long run. Yeah. And that's what I mean by it's okay to not go anywhere. You don't have to have a content creation goal. You don't have to have a money earning goal. Just be you. Produce content or make art or dance or sing, whatever it is, in the way that brings you the most happiness and fulfills you the most every single day. Once you've found that, believe me, you will never want to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not only okay to be you, it's the best thing you can do to be you. And like we've talked about so much in this episode here, honesty is the unlock for everything good in life. Honesty is the unlock for everything good in life. You've got to be honest with yourself, and then you've got to be honest with others. And that's the only way you can create something that's true, something that exists, that you care about and that you value. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a project, whether it's a lifestyle or a belief system, whatever it is, it's got to start with honesty. I want to throw a quick funny little anecdote from the last episode 2 actually. My buddy Ilham, aka Inflate, came on, and he mentioned something funny. It was a compliment towards me, but I'm not sharing it because it was a compliment. I hadn't thought of it this way. He actually said, I think that you're a really honest person, Ben. He said, because sometimes you'll disappear from social media, and it's because you don't have anything to share, or you feel like you're not in the right place to be sharing something on social media. And like, it's true, I don't have anything to share at some points on social media, or I'm going through a hard patch, and so I feel like it's not the best place for me to be on social media. But I didn't really think of it in terms of like that being an honest thing to do. But I guess after he said that, I was like, oh, you know what? You're kind of right. That is like some self-honesty there, disappearing because I'm not going to be good to myself or other people. And I guess that's the bigger message that everyone watching can take, is that, like Ethan said, you do need to be real with yourself and not judge yourself. That's where the judgment comes in that limits us all.
Exactly.
Thinking that I want to be a great musician, therefore I must post on social media every day.
Right.
Nope, not true. Not true. There's 100 ways to succeed. We didn't have social media for hundreds and thousands, like literally 1,000
years, right?
So, and there's famous musicians like Mozart and Bach and Queen that came way before social media. So no, you can succeed without social media. Do most people do social media? Yes, but you don't have to. You have to find what works for you. Not in whether you're a musician, artist, or a creator of any kind, or even just a human being. Like, don't judge yourself for not doing something that everybody else is doing. It's great to do your own thing. It's great to have a niche. It's great to take the unbeaten path, because, again, it goes back to honesty and creating the world that you believe in. You don't need to do it because you should do it. Should is one of the worst words in the English language. Should doesn't matter, because should isn't real. And we rarely do stuff that we should do. We only do stuff that we want to do. We only do stuff that we need to do. Want and need are really the only important things. Should is very rarely of any importance.
Should or could.
Yeah.
Should or could.
Yeah, and so I think that's the key thing there that you can also take from it, is that be honest with yourself, and then also don't judge yourself. Find a way that works for you. A personal example for me is that, like, I don't feel comfortable creating on TikTok. And that might change, in the next 3, 6, 9 months. But right now I don't feel comfortable like creating TikTok content yet. And so I don't really share on TikTok that often, even though it's a platform that's exploding and everyone's on it and everyone's talking about it. And if I got there, I'm sure I could get a bunch of views, but it just doesn't feel natural or organic to me. So I don't spend a lot of time there. Right or wrong, that's my choice. And I can't judge myself, because judging myself doesn't make me do it more. It just makes me feel bad,
Right.
So
right.
Again, to the audience, like, be honest with yourself, be honest with the world, eliminate judgment by embracing who you are, rather than thinking in terms of, I could be this, I should be this. Who are you? Who are you? Who do you want to be? And what can you do about that right now today?
Exactly.
Oh, man. Incredible conversation. Ethan, is there anything you want to mention as we wrap it up?
Just that me and Benji both we have so many things to say, and so many of these topics, even that we brought up here in this platform. It's an amazing space for us to share the stuff that we're learning, the stuff that we have learned. But for those of you who are more curious about deeper insights into these topics, please check our Instagrams. We have so many videos and stories uploaded every day that we break down so much stuff that we just can't get into just because of time constraints here on this podcast. And I'm a firm believer that every single sentence that is said on this podcast could be broken down into 100 little mini videos explaining each and every little detail and things that it's back related to. So please do take the time to research out these topics on our pages, because there's a lot more that you can learn. Especially like the last things that we were just talking about, that's all directly related to systems. And I've been all over systems on my page for this last week and the last week and a half. So that's also something that you need to to be on, and you need to figure that out. So yeah, just check out our pages and just give the time to yourself. Commit that time to yourself to figuring out these topics more, even if it's not our pages. Something else.
Yeah. I mean, two things on that. I think one, also, check out other people who influence. We mentioned Wim Hof today. We mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk. We mentioned David Goggins. We mentioned Jay Shetty. Like, check out their content as well, because they're on the same kind of vibe that we're on as well. And if that helps you, it's more accessible, then look up them as well. And additionally, it would be super helpful if you're watching this right this minute to DM us or message or comment to us which part did stand out to you. Because we talked about a whole range of things today, but what was it that hit you that was important to you? Let us know, because that's good for us to share more to other people, because everyone's going through the same thing you're going through, whether you realize it or not. Everyone's going through the same stuff we're going through, whether we realize it or not. So reach out to us and tell us, what's up in your life and what hits you, what was important to you. Everybody, thank you so much for watching this episode. I'm so glad to continue the Chit Chat show here on YouTube. Can't wait for the next episode. EJ, much love to you. Good luck on the next chapter, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
Everyone, have a great night.